Hey, and welcome to another episode of Late Night of Take 3. We've got a great show today with a great bunch of special guests. Over to that side of me, we've got Robert Adams from the Cinema Fanatics. How's it going, Robert?
Pretty good. Just coming off of our stream, our premiere over there. So it's a long day. It's been a long week of just like consistent, constant streaming. So yeah, loving this virtual world that I now apparently completely live in. I only come out to actually interact with real people, which is just a weird concept at this point. But yeah, pretty good.
We're all living in the Matrix in real life. But going around, we've got the Barbarian. How's it going, Barbarian?
Doing great, Malcolm. Greetings from the past. It is Sunday where I am and Monday where you are. And it's really weird to be talking across space and time like this.
And last but not least, we've got Ryan Payne. Ryan, how's it going?
I am pretty well, Malcolm. Looking to close out Sunday with pretty much with a good, like a bang. So I figured what better way to do than to be on here with this. Like, honestly, out of all three of you guys, I feel like I'm just a black sheep of the family. I'm just going to sit here in my corner and wait till it's my turn.
I feel like in New Zealand makes Malcolm more the sheep. But,
I mean, you're not wrong. But yeah, it's one of those ones. There's a bunch of news that happened this week. Some people may be more interested in them than others, but basically what we have, I'll just pick a couple and go through them. It's come out that Disney has decided to halt production of its 4K physical media thing. I don't quite understand why. I just sort of looked it up very quickly, and I think something to do with them wanting to build up Disney Plus more. But Ryan, what are your feelings about Disney deciding to stop 4K physical media?
Well, I mean, look, yeah, when I read that, I was not completely hurt over it. I mean, I have a couple of 4Ks, but it just feels to me with a lot of streaming happening, it was just it felt like it was just But I can see how some people will be hurt. I mean, Disney is trying to put a lot of their money into streaming, and with some of the 4Ks, they plan on like taking some of their old movies to release, which they love to do with the Disney classics. I mean, it does seem business-wise it's going to hurt them a bit, but they're going to recover. I won't be surprised till the end of the year I see they're going to market Beauty and the Beast or The Rescuers Down Under in 4K.
Yeah. I mean, at the moment, Disney pretty much owns the world, so I don't think they're going to be hurt by this. Craig, what are your feelings about Disney deciding to stop production of 4K physical media?
Yeah, so I basically live in a cave, so this is the first I've heard about this. But I'm a little disappointed myself. I've got a 4K TV. I don't have a 4K player yet. Waiting for that PS5 to come out. Going to grab that when it's ready. But at the same time, I've been very happy with how the enhanced viewing looks with Disney Plus. So I feel like anything that Disney would have been putting out in 4K, they're going to be releasing in 4K on Disney Plus anyway. So I'm not that concerned with it.
Yep. And Robert, what is your feelings about Disney halting physical media for 4K?
It's actually pretty interesting. Now, throughout my life, I've had my collections of movies, and I mean, I've had huge collections. I had like a huge collection of VHSs growing up. VHS was that black thing that you had to be kind and rewind. Yeah. Back when Blockbuster was a thing, which apparently it is again. I don't know. But then I had a massive collection of DVDs, and I had a massive collection of Blu-rays. It seems like every time I've built up a physical media collection, I would always end up going through, like, say, like the recession in 07, 08, or I'd lose a job or something, and I'd end up having to sell, like, pretty much all of my collection for money. Right now, I've been in a position for, like, the past I don't know, like 6, 7, 8 years or so. I lost count. Where I've been regrowing my collection again, but this time I've kept my collection pretty much all digital. So the downside is if I ever go broke again, I don't have anything to sell except camera equipment and microphones and whatever. But the hot toys. But this time I have everything on a digital media. It's not going to wear out like VHSs would after a while, or cause to warp like DVDs or Blu-rays potentially could. I like it that it's more sustainable. The problem is people just aren't quite ready for that leap, I don't think. But someone had to do it. Someone had to be the first one to go out the gate and say, hey, look, we're not making these anymore. Someone had to be the first one to say, we're not making VHSs anymore, which, if I remember correctly, I think the last VHS was a James Bond movie. I think it was Casino Royale, if I remember correctly.
No, it was the History of Violence.
History of Violence. No, that's right. Yes. Yeah. So that was the last new movie that was made on VHS, and that was what 05 or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
05 or 06.
Yeah, you have to take this leap at some point. So
yeah. But yeah, I mean, whether or not it's all physical media just needs stopping, they specified 4K specifically, so I don't know if that means it's stopping everything, but it's going to be interesting to find out anyway. But another news that sort of came out this week is Garth Davis is going to helm a new Tron movie, which is apparently going to star Jared Leto. I'm going to start with Craig on this one. What are your thoughts about a new Tron movie?
I'm intrigued to see what they can do with it. I did recently do a rewatch of both the original Tron and Tron Legacy, and I feel like the first time I'd watched Tron Legacy, I'd done it without having really seen the original Tron and having the benefit of seeing them in conjunction with one another. I feel like it's the world building, like how much of like the world that they keep from the original Tron is really important to understanding the second film. And I feel like because they've done so much, world building at this point, that they could potentially, come up with a strong idea. And Garth Davis was coming off of Lion, which is really solid. I'm sure do you guys have a rivalry with the Aussies, or are you friends with the Aussies?
I mean, our rivalry is just as epic as Founding Fathers and corruption in the Schmodown.
I see. All right. Well, so then, dang you, Aussie Garth Davis. He's yeah. So, but no, I think this could be a bit. I think this, yeah. I think the Tron Legacy visually was an astounding movie to look at, and I feel like most of the criticism against it came about its plot at the time, but revisiting it with kind of the deeper look, I think it was a little better than I'd originally thought, and I think that there's huge potential for a new movie.
And Robert, what are your thoughts about a new Tron movie?
Well, you're gonna force me to admit that I've never seen the first two. I have not watched the original. I have not seen the second one because I haven't watched the original. So yeah, I got about a week of vacation from work coming up pretty soon. I guess I got to watch Tron during it. Thanks, Malcolm.
They're both on Disney Plus.
Yeah. No, there's definitely a great thing there. I could just easily pop it up, but I don't have to go looking for it. But I guess I got to watch Tron.
Well, the one I think it's going to be nice because with Tron Legacy, you're going to be not only watching movie, but you're also going to be able to listen to the Daft Punk album. Like that album was a shining moment of the sequel.
I wonder if they should have got Daft Punk to go back and do a soundtrack for the original movie too, and then re-release the original Tron with the Daft Punk. I wonder how that would look with the old 80s graphics or 70s. I can't remember when that came out. Late 70s, early 80s graphics with Daft Punk music.
or what they could have done was like flip it. So do that and use like the same soundtrack for the original with Tron Legacy instead, and just kind of like have those kind of like the cheesy 80s music along with the 2010s graphics.
You like your 80s synthesizers and
yeah, it was like make them give a little more energy to the sequel. That's for sure.
Yeah. But Ryan, what are your thoughts about a Neutron movie?
I mean, I'm glad a Neutron movie was happening because I do remember when that sequel was coming out, they went all in on Tron. Like I remember there were Tron cartoons. There was like a Tron video game they were trying to get off the ground. Like they were trying really hard to make Tron the next best thing, and the world building itself from the first one kind of builds. Because I mean, I saw the sequel and then I saw the first one later, but just seeing how the second one it was trying to be like the first one, except give us a new perspective with the sun. But like most people, my issues with the second one was I think the direction for Garrett Hedlund was just completely off. But that aside, I was still very heavily invested for a third one. I wanted to see Olivia Wilde come back, maybe a Jeff Bridges cameo, but not CGI this time. But if this third one,
why aren't they in the third one?
No, what do you mean?
You're spoiling the second one for us, even though I've had 10 years to go watch it.
Oh, it's no spoiler. They used second one pretty much uses CGI Bridges. That's for sure.
I saw that and it looks terrible.
But even with Jared Leto, I mean, despite what people think about, I think he is kind of a good choice here. He could fit more either in the digital world or it can be in the real world. I mean, it all depends.
I'm a Jared Leto fan. Like, and I just rewatched Blade Runner 2049 again recently, and I love what he does in that. And I just see him taking that kind of just like weird, like personality that he can conduct, and just like having that fit perfectly either as a hero or a villain in the sequel. Probably a villain.
But yeah, the last news I'm going to bring up, which apparently is all Disney news today because Star Wars is getting a new holiday special for Disney Plus. But this time it's going to be a Lego holiday special, and from what I could understand from the description, it's going to be kind of an It's a Wonderful Life type thing in which they go back in time, meet past versions of themselves, or because you're going to have Rey, BB-8 and all that interacting with like Darth Vader from earlier Luke. But what are your feelings about a new holiday special being made for Disney Plus?
So what I'm wondering and what I'm really hoping on is that say Disney, Lucasfilm, they stop messing around and they actually will admit and acknowledge that the original holiday special actually does exist and is canon. So I want to see like maybe some quick flashbacks to like maybe like a Lego Lumpy. Like let's bring back like a Lego version of B. Arthur or Harvey Korman. Let's get them in on this and just go all out and say like, yeah, so that Life Day or whatever that they do on Kashyyyk actually still exists and whatnot. And then continue on with that. Like make a nice little nod to it. I mean, I say that in joke, but yeah, make a nod to it and then give you your own like actual story. I think that would be fantastic if they did that. But I don't know, since this is going to be Lego based, if this is really going to count as any kind of Star Wars canon.
Yeah. But Ryan, what are your thoughts on a new Star Wars holiday special?
They had me when they said Star Wars holiday special, and then they lost me when they said Lego. I was just okay. So pretty much it's going to be like Resistance. It's sort of, but not really a part of the canon. But either way, I mean, to be honest, I'm shocked Disney didn't try sooner or later to make a holiday special out of Star Wars, because it feels like, especially with BB-8 and then the characters they had, it felt like a perfect opportunity, at least after at least leading up to Rise of Skywalker, to do like a holiday special and maybe try to get some goodwill with the fans. But you know what? It's kind of better late than never. And I'm guessing with the whole situation with Legos, I mean, it does give them more free range to actually start messing with the continuity or like creating these funny stories. And heck, if I don't know, for some reason, if they're able to get Harrison Ford and pay him enough money just so he can drop 5 lines of Han Solo and then just splice them over and over in this holiday special, I'm all for it.
I mean, I think for one of the Lego games, I think they did manage to get Harrison Ford to actually do some new lines for that. So I think because it's voiceover, I think they're not going to object to it. They haven't really said anything about if there's going to be the original cast voices or not in this yet. So that's still wait to see. But Craig, what are your feelings about a new Star Wars holiday special?
Well, I think that the one cast member we can definitely count on coming back is Anthony Daniels, who always does these. And I think that I think it's going to be great because I think it's look, I think the reason why they couldn't have done one of these without making it Lego is because then you get into the whole does it cheapen, doesn't take it seriously enough, and yada yada, and does it take away from the whole thing? Whereas with this, it's like because it's Lego, they'll get to be it'll be silly, it'll be fun, and they will be able to do as what Robert said was hoping, like poke fun at the original holiday special. I with the way they've done their previous Lego stuff, I can't imagine that they won't poke fun at the Life Day on Kashyyyk. And I recall, was it like Droids or something? It takes place on Endor following Return of the Jedi, with C-3PO trying to recall to the Ewoks the stories of like Episode 1, and in the while trying to talk about it to the Ewoks, he's like, "Well, you guys want me to go back and talk more about the trade discussions? Come on, let's just get So it's like they make they take the opportunity in these moments to poke fun at themselves, and I expect it will be heartwarming and hilarious for kids of all ages.
Yeah, and I found the screenshots that they actually attached to this. Like we've got that one, we've got that big battle scene with.
Is that Mace Windu? What?
Yeah.
Huh? Oh, because it's the time travel.
Yeah, a cut in half Darth Maul.
Oh, I thought his body was in the sand.
Oh, wait, no, it's the top half of Darth Maul. So they just attached the. Here, let me find my my little Lego me. By the way,
Nice.
If y'all seen any of our videos, I've used the Lego me and my brother a couple times.
And it's hard to see, but I believe
it looks like Luke or Qui-Gon.
Well, no, I think that's all 3 of Obi-Wan Kenobi's from the prequels.
Okay, yeah, I'm seeing one with the beard. I'm guessing one of them is with the ponytail.
Yeah. And then
it's
the
like
other one is
all 3 of them.
That's the logo. So.
Oh yeah,
so they made the word.
They even put the words "holiday special" in ugly Christmas sweater font. That's amazing.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
But yeah, it does. It's one of those cool things, like with what they can have done with the Lego games and stuff. Just find a way to do a whole lot of nice and jokes is fun. But yeah, that's a short bunch of news. I mean, there hasn't been a lot of news this year, but for obvious reasons. But
pretty much.
But now time to sort of move on to the main topic, which is the MCU. MCU is just been one of those things which has gone on for a long time, but it's one of those ones that may have failed. Like, no one knew it was going to be this successful. But if you told me we were going to get a time travel romp through the past, like what we had in InGame, where you had a battle scene with so many different characters that just makes it look like a splash page for the comics, I would have said you were crazy. But Robert, sort of how did you get introduced into the MCU? Were you there for the whole ride? Were you late?
Like, was I in the theater when Iron Man came out?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, most definitely. As you can tell, and I got to figure out which hand I'm on. This one. So I got an Avengers Mondo poster back there because I live in Austin, Texas, so this is where Mondo is based out of. So I got that. I got what is this? One of the Infinity Gauntlet with Scotty Young doing the Thanos's like, "Come get some, bro," or something like that. I think that's what he's saying. Yeah, come at me, bro. So I absolutely love Marvel. I love the comic books. I've been a comic book fan ever since I was a little kid. It was like Ninja Turtles and comic books, and that was it for me as a kid. So yeah, I had all the action figures. I used to all the time like use the action figures and play with them as if I'm the one who's making the movie. So like I had like a lot of the X-Men figures. I would make an X-Men movie with my figures. Like I would always for some reason, I always start off with like the Wolverine figures, like parachuting down to some place to go rip people up or something or another. And then it would just go from there, playing with my toys as a kid. So yeah, I love the movies. They've been fantastic. I love that they've managed to succeed where so many other people are dreaming of trying to succeed in. So,
but Craig, same question, but how did you have you always been a comic book fan and MCU fan?
Yeah, as you'll see behind me, I'm sitting in my Captain America chair, my office chair, and look, it's when they first announced the Iron Man, I remember being in, when they first did Iron Man, I remember being in the theater when the end credit, the post credit scene comes and reveals, Samuel L. Jackson there as Nick Fury talking about the Avengers Initiative and knowing exactly what that meant, and just like the what's the term? The nerdgasm of happiness of knowing that they're going to try this was fantastic. And not only is it something that could have failed, it's something that was very bumpy from the very beginning. The fact that they came up with this plan to interconnect all these movies, and then immediately get rid of the second lead actor that they'd cast. And then they got rid of the second lead of the first film, Terrence Howard, and the lead of the second film, Edward Norton. And it's, so even from the get-go, this was fraught with peril. But to see, the way they were able to so intricately tie it together in the first 22 films. Yes, there's 23 films in the first, the first three phases, but the end game was the true culmination there. And it succeeded on a scale both financially and just critically and emotionally, that what a time to be alive. We'd never seen anything like this before in our lives.
Yeah. And Ryan, have you always been a comic book fan, MCU fan?
I mean, Mike, it took me to like maybe a bit of high school, like middle school, to start reading my first comic trades, in which I found, in which I would always sneak off to the library, and that was from there. But I was always a big comic fan when watching the '90s cartoons like SpiderMan, XMen, even watching the ones from like Batman, Superman from on it. It was just kind of like that passion, hunger was there. I just could never find certain outlets to to really feed it, like get in the comics. So when comic book movies came in, good or bad, I wanted to watch them. And so, of course, watching Iron Man in theaters, I actually stayed that to the end credits just as a joke, just so to wait for everyone to leave. And so when everyone left, I was getting ready to go. And when I saw that happen, I'm like, is this going to be a thing? And then following from Hulk to Thor, Iron Man 2, it was just like, wow. So if I had not stayed behind just to be the last person to get out of the theater, I never would have known about those end credits. But beside that, just God, the fact that these are succeeding very well, they're taking comic book characters who are most people would consider like lower tier superheroes and actually putting them on a platform to where you can actually see why they work. Like Ant-Man, Black Widow, Hawkeye, even War Machine. I love the fact that they're giving these heroes their opportunities to shine in the sun. And while they may never get the more screen times than Thor, Captain America, or Iron Man, or even with Hulk, but it's nice to know that there are still so many more heroes down the road that Marvel can either, use like as supporting characters or build a team movie off of. I mean, the possibility is truly endless as long as the MCU has the right direction and the right the right heads in order to really, keep everything level-headed.
Yeah. Like I'm actually a different way. Like I became sort of a true comic book fan ever since I started watching the MCU. Like as a kid, I've always never really got into comics that much. Like I watched the X-Men movies when I was younger, but it wasn't until the MCU really made me a fan because I was exposed to all these characters like Iron Man, Captain America, Hulk, for characters who actually I never really heard of a lot until the MCU happened. But yeah, it's just one of those ones. Just to see it unfold over the period of time, from the first post-credit scene all the way to Far From Home with the end, just to see sort of where it's going to go from there on. And I mean, I kind of wish we'd seen Black Widow now to kind of fill up the details between Civil War and stuff, find out what she was doing through them, but we go to wait till at least November or maybe a little bit later. But yeah.
You'll probably get it before we will.
Yeah, most likely, honestly, man.
Yeah, because you're in New Zealand. Y'all are completely like landlocked or whatever from like anyone else in the outside world. You can't come in or go out.
No, I mean, because we're getting Tenant in a couple of weeks, which is crazy. But I mean, there's definitely a lot. Like as Brian says, there's been a lot of great actors that have appeared in the MCU, such as Robert Redford, Michael Douglas, people who would never expect to be in a superhero movie. But looking towards the future, I'll go to the verse order. Ryan, is there any sort of characters you would like to see get time to shine in the MCU?
Well, actually, personally, for me, I want to see MCU start focusing on legacy characters. I mean, as much as I love the idea of people wanting with them taking Fox, like we're finally getting Fantastic Four, X-Men, and Blade and all. But personally, for me, I think what would help MCU with the future moving forward is they start really shifting their lens towards legacy characters. Like I know technically Scott Lang is a legacy character because he's taken the crown from Hank Pym, but maybe in the next AntMan, now that with the 5-year jump is solid, we can maybe have some focus on Cassie and how she wants to be, how she feels inspired to help people like her father, or with Spider-Man with the next one coming out. I know Peter Parker is a young kid, but maybe we can start sprinkling other characters. Like I know with Tony Reveille's Flash, he's sort of like a villain, but maybe we can start seeing him have a different attitude change to where maybe at the end of the third Spider-Man, he joins the military, and that leads into a subplot down the line to where we might get Agent Venom, or with and also bring in other characters like Kamala Khan, bring in Choi, oh my god, Amadeus Choi, Sam, like Nova or so, like really start bringing in the idea of young heroes, because as much as I want to see more of my favorite Marvel heroes being brought in, I think it would be very business savvy of the of Disney and most likely Marvel themselves to start thinking, we want to get more, we want the movies to be, I mean, if you want to get more opportunities for team up movies or more opportunities for spin-offs, start sprinkling young heroes across maybe the next, just like the next movies down the line. I don't want to try to fantasy pitch here, but it's just like more young heroes gives more opportunities, because then when the young actors get older, you can start actually having movies surrounding their characters.
Yeah, I believe we are getting Kamala Khan. Because I think there was a Ms. Marvel show in the works. Yeah. And I think Hawkeye, from what I've heard, Hawkeye's bringing in Kate Barton.
Yes.
But Craig, is there any characters you would like to see brought into the MCU down the line?
Yeah, I mean, I think the obvious answer is the X-Men. I mean, for me, I think I grew up as an X-Men fan, even before I was a fan of the rest of the Marvel. And so even, in the battle between, the different franchises, while MCU has been fantastic, I've always made sure I've gone out to see all the Fox X-Men verse films and have been very happy when to hear they're finally going to be able to get brought into the fold. And I know I know for a long time Hugh Jackman was lobbying to get Wolverine to be part of the MCU, and I know he said he does not plan to reprise the role, and I would respect that, but it's going to be great to see the kinds of decisions they make with regards to that to those characters. And in terms of a brand new character that has not had any time on screen yet coming in, I would love to see Namor the Submariner. Hopefully, there's a lot of speculation that was being referenced by Okoye in Avengers Endgame, and hopefully we'll see Namor pretty soon on the line.
Yeah. And Robert, is there any characters you'd like to see brought in down the line?
Let me see if I can actually, if I'm able to move. So this next poster over here, easily my favorite character of all is Silver Surfer. And I don't think we've seen Silver Surfer in a movie.
Did you close your eyes? Did you close your eyes, or you just not consider that a movie?
Yeah. I mean, I watched a movie, but it was very cloudy.
Hey-o.
So
cloudy in that theater, eh?
Yeah. In all like seriousness, I thought they had the look of the Silver Surfer down pretty well, and I liked it. It was weird because when I first heard that they're getting Doug Jones, I was like, that doesn't look like the Silver Surfer. And then I saw the Silver Surfer, and I was like, that doesn't look like Doug Jones. And then he sounds like Morpheus, and I was like, what? This doesn't make any sense. No, let's give Silver Surfer to the actual Marvel Studios. Let them take this character that is very refined, very well respected, have them do him right, and then frickin' do Galactus properly and not some mother effing cloud. Sorry, I don't know if this is a family channel. I know mine is, but I will censor myself. But yeah, and my original idea for this is I thought, like, let's go with the Silver Surfer and do like the Silver Surfer origin movie first.
Yeah.
With like Norn Rad on Zenlaw. Let's do the whole thing where Galactus invades and he gives himself up to Galactus, yada, yada, yada. And then that we go from like the end of that is him moving into finding Earth for Galactus. And that's how we introduce the Fantastic Four into the MCU. We're introducing him through the Silver Surfer's eyes, because we don't need another origin of the Fantastic Four. We need a fresh take, and I want to go straight into Fantastic Four already exist. Here's what they're doing. Let's go with like a threat like Silver Surfer that no one else, especially because Tony Stark doesn't exist anymore, no one else is able to find that Silver Surfer and Galactus are potentially out there in outer space.
Yeah.
If they can find some way to incorporate them into what looks like Sword that's being created by Nick Fury,
yeah,
put Mr. Fantastic as a part of that Sword, and then bring in the Fantastic Four that way. I think all of that is a good way to get Fantastic Four into the MCU without looking like they're shoehorned in, without having to touch upon their origin, and would be a fantastic way to bring Silver Surfer in.
Oh, definitely. Like for me, my answer would be the X-Men, but it's also one of those ones I'm really worried about seeing again, because it's going to be so hard to imagine someone else playing Wolverine when Hugh Jackman has played it so well over the past 17 plus years.
20 years.
It's
Yeah.
really hard, really hard.
Yeah, the first X-Men movie came out in 2000, right after I had or right before I was joining the military.
Well, yeah. I mean, technically, Logan was 2017, so it's 17 years since he. But so,
Oh, yeah, I see what you're
depends on what way you want to argue.
You're both correct. You're both correct.
Yeah.
No, I get it.
But I mean, it's one of those ones like just like I'm just happy to see a lot of them because like Spider-Woman is another one I'd love to see get into there, and I don't like when it comes to the Spider characters. I have no idea what the relationship is and who owns who anymore because
true.
with the whole we all know that the Sony last Spider-Man movie, which apparently is called Homesick, from what I've seen on Sin, I don't know if that's true or not, but that's going to be the last one that's going to be co-produced by Disney and Sony at this stage. So it's whatever characters go all out. I'd love to see Agent Venom too, but for that same reason, I don't know if they can bring it into proper MCU. So there's a lot of those sort of things out there, which when it comes to the Spider-Man character side of things, but I
mean, there are definitely other worlds in Marvel we can do. I mean, like touching on with like as he had Robert mentioned with Silver Surfer. I mean, another great character we could introduce is maybe Quasar, or because Quasar. I mean, Quasar feels like in some ways in the comics like a very overpowered character. But the fact with Quasar, he or she can be a great character to use to really introduce Marvel to the cosmic world out there. Like with so many different worlds that Earth could be kind of like in their rear view. Or I mean, Quasar could also be kind of like a slight reintroduction to the Nova Corps, or maybe just reintroduce ourselves to Nova. So instead of Xandar, we can say that they now the best example could be with the Nova Corps is after Thanos had destroyed their homeworld, they created the World Mind, which from there on can lead to the idea of how the Nova Corps has kind of turned from more than just like a planet defense city into now they kind of want to start being like a galactic police force. So then it could lead to a Nova Corps member they fall to Earth, badly injured. I mean, this feels a little bit like Green Lantern, but that's how it kind of felt like with Richard Rider. In those situations, the difference is that with the Nova Corps, we have a slight introduction with them with Guardians. We get a brief mention about their fate from Thor in Infinity War. And then from there on, we can use them to build more, stretch out into the cosmic world. So then when we get to like phase 5, 6, or 7, we don't always have to keep with Earth-based stories.
Yeah, and as Brian mentions in the chat, there was a rumor going around that Daredevil.
Good lord, that was super nerdy.
But yeah, like as Brian says, there's a rumor that Daredevil will be in Spider-Man 3, which would be good if it's true, but it's also one of those ones I'd love to see those TV characters actually get a shot in the big screen, like with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. finishing just the past week, and then you've got like the Daredevil shows. Like I would love to see those characters get even if they appear at a brief cameo in a movie, I'd love to see them used more, as opposed to just being part of a TV series, which was loosely connected as it was. But
do you think that they would, with the Defenders characters, do you think that they would pull those same TV versions of them into the films, or do you think they might reintroduce them as brand new characters in the films?
I mean, like with the Defenders characters, I think those ones might be recast as much as I don't want them to, just because those shows perfect. There's that, and those shows were in the MCU, but they weren't sort of like connected as
MCU adjacent. Yeah, they were adjacent. Yeah. Like they would call what happened at New York the incident, and then that was as much as they referred to it.
but then we go with like Agents of Shield and the Captain Marvel, the Agent Carter, where they were directly linked to the films, and they had several cast crossovers and whatnot. So you would be weird if they were to try to reintroduce a new Quake into the MCU. It would be weird.
Oh yeah, definitely. But that being said, I'm gonna move on to the final topic before we get into our fun game, which I've done. Which basically what I've done for the fun game is I've taken all the movies, gone through the Rotten Tomatoes, combined them with their box office rankings, made a bracket, and we're going to see what we think is the ultimate MCU movie, which has brought up some interesting battles. But before we get into that, Ryan, what is your favorite sort of moment or moments from the MCU?
I mean, if I have to take regions, I'm gonna put my recency bias out of the way. I'm gonna look at, honestly, it's a little. I mean, it doesn't feel like it would rank into most people's top 5, but I think one of my favorite is in AntMan, when Hank tells Hope what happened to her mother. Now, it's a very small moment, but for me, when it comes with Ant-Man, those moments kind of itself is kind of proof to me that Ant-Man can exist in the MCU, but not really be part of the whole timeline, like with Captain America and Avengers. Like, just having Hank at a low point, fearing that he's gonna lose his daughter once again, finally come clean to her what happened to her mother, what caused him to become so cold and distant, what led to so much animosity. And it's from that little breaking of just finally lifting that burden off his shoulders, sharing this pain with his daughter, led them both to mend bridges. And even then, it was great with that end credit scene with Hank telling Hope, me and your mother was going to build this suit, but I think now we realize it was meant for you. And it still has my favorite line that I still love, when you have Evangeline Lilly, you got that close-up, and she goes, "It's about damn time." And as whatever people feel about Ant-Man and the Wasp, I think that relationship that Hope and Hank have would never have came to pass if we didn't have that moment in the first Ant-Man movie.
Craig, what are some of your favorite moments in the MCU?
I mean, there are. I'll give 3 separate types of moments. One is one of the best uses of comedy, which is in the MCU, is just filled with tons of comedy. But the scene in Thor Ragnarok where Ruffalo Banner jumps from the plane, basically telling Valkyrie, telling Valkyrie, "Don't worry, watch this. I'm going to take care of things." And just the cut to him just like landing on the Bifrost and bouncing and like basically looking like he's just killed himself. And it's like, being able to take a moment of heroism like that and turn it on its head in a really funny way to poke fun at it, but then at the same time still keeping it just pumped up and action packed is the blending of action and comedy has been flawless, really. And there's that. So that's my favorite example of that. The big oh shit moment, just the gut wrenching, heart stopping moment when Thanos just snaps his fingers, and just there's our heroes have spent the last 2.5 hours giving it their all, trying their best, and they come up short. And it's in the moment of it's the moment of just absolute horror in movie theaters across the country as everyone's watching their favorite heroes die before their eyes. And then the opposite of that, of course, is the ultimate moment of triumph in Endgame, where the on your left. On your left. Well, I'm trying to think. What's the better moment of triumph? The on your left or the I'll stick with on your left. I was going to say that there's 2 real moments that really exemplify that. The on your left and the Captain America pulling up Mjolnir. But I think the on your left is really the
Assemble.
the symbol. Yeah.
Meow meow. What's meow meow?
And Robert, what are some of your favorite MCU moments?
Pretty much like I will go straight for, and I know it's a cop out answer, but as he said, the nerdgasm moments, seeing Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury in the end credits, and then I do like seeing Tony Stark at the end of Incredible Hulk, because that's where you're like, okay, you actually are going to start merging and blending these movies together. Seeing Thanos at the end of Avengers, and then like pretty much all the major moments from Endgame, the Mjolnir, the on your left portals, everyone coming together, and then of course the biggest one from Endgame was the Avengers Assemble, where like the entire theater I was in like just broke out screaming like hell yeah type of thing. Easily, like those are the parts, because as a comic book fan, that's what you're wanting to see. Take that one little thing that I am familiar with and stick it on the big screen, and when you do that, I mean, that's all you got to do. It's just pleasing the fans.
Yeah,
you want to see Bruce Wayne in a Batman costume? Stick him in the Batman costume. That's it. That's all you got to do.
Actually, there is one other. I mean, I play more, but there is one other thing from my MCU favorite moment that from Endgame I loved. It did a great job on whenever you're put the idea like if you're able to travel back in time, what would you do? And it's two of my favorite moments when Tony gets to talk to his dad one more time at the base, even though his dad doesn't know who he is, but it's like Tony in that one moment he finally, from his own perspective of raising a daughter, he understands exactly the hardships that his dad had to deal with. Sometimes, swallowing his own pride, trying to put his kid's best interest in front of him. And I like how when they're walking towards that car, they're talking about like just simple, like normal stuff. Like Howard asked, like, you have a daughter? Like, yeah, she's like this old. And then just seeing the elation that John Slattery gives in the performance, like he's not even here yet, but there's nothing I wouldn't do for him. And just that validation for Tony realizing that even though he thought of his dad like in a very negative way from the first two Iron Man movies, you now realizes that, like that line when he says, I thought he was harming, but now all I remember is the good stuff. Because he realizes now that once that negativity is gone, he realizes his dad did a lot for him. And I love how he carried that into his relationship. He was trying to do that with Peter in Homecoming. And you can clearly see how Morgan Stark is in Endgame. Like he's being a very loving father.
Yeah.
And then my second one, I swear, it's another nerdy one, was when Cap is in that elevator and he whispers "Hail Hydra" to Sitwell. And I love the meme.
Yeah.
It's those memes that came across to. I love it. Encapsulating my favorite meme is like when you're an expert player, but then you get the cheat codes. It's like you're cutting through what, and also it's great growth for Cap, because in Winter Soldier, instead of trying to handle that elevator scene, he's going to punch his way out. But then he's in that same situation again. He uses his brain. He realizes, hey, I don't need to knock these guys out. I can just take it.
They're all Hydra agents. Might as well.
Yes.
I mean, for me, like I've got a few favorite moments. Like I'll start my in-game. Like most of my favorite moments already been said. But one of that I do like is just the Hulk hates stairs moment. Just when Hulk's forced to take the stairs and that's just a crazy moment. It's like oh yeah, there's no that's going to bite them in the bum later on. But like for me, another one that I like is just the moment where Groot is trying to get the items to break Yondu and Rocket Man. Bringing back all these random things. It's like, no, does that look like? But yeah,
he had a whole toe, and he's like, "Where'd you get that?" Well, let's not talk about that.
But yeah, it's one of those ones that it's just a lot of MCU has a lot of great moments as it is. It's just so hard to pick a few. But it does mean that we're going to go to our fun game, which is going to be interesting. But our first matchup that you have, once I actually get that
Verify the
down
winner.
to yeah.
The winner is verified. I am Robert.
Well played.
But our first matchup that we have is Captain Marvel versus Ant-Man and the Wasp. I'll start with Robert. Which of these do you think is the better movie, or do you like the better?
Which is the better movie?
Yeah.
Which do you want to see advance in the tournament?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. We're not trying to guess like who had the higher like Rotten Tomato score, who made the most money, or
no.
Just what do I think was the overall best movie between the two of them?
Who do you want to advance? We have a bracket.
Yeah.
I'd probably say Ant-Man and the Wasp. I think it was a little more fun. I like what Captain Marvel did, but Ant-Man and the Wasp was a little more fun.
But Craig, which of these two is your favorite?
You know, it's really hard being in this position because I feel like both of the films are about middle of the pack for the MCU. I feel like a lot of the comedy that they tried to put into Captain Marvel didn't work as well as it could have. They did have some that did work well, but I think that the comedy worked better in Ant-Man and the Wasp. So I'm going to go Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Ryan, out of these two, which is your favorite?
I actually rewatched Captain Marvel like a week ago just to see if I can remember if the movie was maybe better on a second or third viewing. But despite the movie being very solid, at least for the side characters, I have to go with Ant-Man and the Wasp because there was just some more heartful moments in that movie. Like Cassie, the actress who played Cassie really stole the show in that movie. And I will take Cassie over the cat Goose any other time. I'm sorry to anyone else who loved Goose, but Cassie
it's not a cat, it's a flurkin.
You are out of your flurkin mind, Ryan. You just lost your flurkin self, I gotta say.
But
I don't think the Flurk gives a care.
Yeah, I mean, I like both these movies. This is really tough. I mean, Ant-Man and the Wasp was going to move on regardless. So it doesn't really matter at this point. I'm just going to give my vote to Captain Marvel.
That's good. We don't look like a bunch of jerks.
You know what, Malcolm? You and your opinion can go flirk itself. Does that work? Does that work at all, or is that like a little too forced?
No. It works. But I think that's the capper. I think that's the capper. We're good now.
Yeah, no more.
Yeah.
The next matchup that we have is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 versus Iron Man 2.
Ooh.
Craig, which of these two is your favorite?
Oh my god!
You know, this is a tough one because, again, both of these are sequels that fell short of their predecessor, and but I'm gonna give the edge to Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. If for no other reason, because of just the heart, the heart in those moments at the end with Yondu, like that in itself is better than anything in Iron Man 2, I should specify. So yeah, I'm Mary Poppins, y'all.
Ryan, Guardians of the Galaxy.
I know what you mean. I know exactly what you mean. I'm on that same wavelength, but with Iron Man 2, I kind of compare. I think Iron Man 2, just like with Thor: The Dark World, it suffered because it didn't. I don't know. They forgot what the movie was supposed to be about. But at the same time, on its own, like if you disconnect it from the continuity, I think it is a good Tony Stark story of him trying to handle the burden of being Iron Man, but at the same time deal with this whole thing of him dying. Like, what does he leave behind? But I think I felt that idea of your legacy more impactful in Guardians, because you really have two characters, two father figures of Peter Quill, and it's kind of like which one is leaving Quill which one's making Quill a better person? Who's leaving their legacy behind? And it's clear Yondu is the one who leaves his legacy within Peter, while Ego's legacy dies on that planet.
On the planet Ego.
Yes.
So you're going Guardians 2, Ryan?
Yes, I am. And also, the funeral, a tear still rolls down my eye for that funeral scene.
Yeah, this is tough for me as well because I do like both of these, but I'm one of the people that do like Guardians. I do like Guardians 2 more than the first one.
I didn't realize those people existed.
They're rare.
But Robert, I think he's trying to influence us with his Iron Man toy. But which one would you have gone with?
I'm gonna go with Guardians 2. Because that's just a toy and it doesn't have feelings.
Just like Iron Man 2. Ayo, I'm kidding.
Actually, that's a really good point. In all honesty, I mean, yes, both movies are fun movies, but if I'm looking at what is reaching me as far as it being a comic book movie, what's hitting that comic book nostalgia, it's got to be Guardians 2, because, I mean, you've got the characters of the Guardians to begin with, and then you're hitting things like the Yondu. Yondu was not an evil person in the comics. Now, he's nowhere near the despicable, like, a-hole that he is in the movies, but they made him a lot more respectable. And then also take into account that what they did with Ego. When I heard that Kurt Russell was playing Ego, I was like, why? Why is there a human being playing Ego? And then by the end of that movie, you're actually visualizing Ego exactly out as he is in the comic book. And I'm like, wow, you took something as stupid as a living planet that looks like Kurt Russell and you gave it to Kurt Russell and actually made it a reality. I got to go with Guardians.
But yeah, and for those of you wondering, like why some movies are already got a bite around 2, there's 23 movies and I put them all on the bracket, and so that this one automatically put some 2 as a buy, so that's why. But this next one should be pretty easy and straightforward. Okay. Ryan, SpiderMan Homecoming or For the Dark World?
Go ahead, tell us why Thor the Dark World is the best movie of all time. Go ahead, explain that.
I'll just say that Stellan Skarsgård gives his he literally gives his ass off in this movie. Like he's putting his ass out there for all of us to enjoy it. But even then,
literally,
yes, literally. But even then, I don't need to be told this plot 3 freaking times over info dumps in this movie. So Spider-Man is good because the parental dynamic is just even stronger in Spider-Man than it is in Thor. And as much as I like Tom Holland and Tom Hiddleston. Michael, I'm not saying no to Michael Keaton, for Christ's sake. I don't want to be pulled over I don't want to be sitting in the same car as that dude at a traffic light. Then all of a sudden he puts together the pieces that I'm a superhero, and next thing he's gonna do is pull a gun on me. No thanks, no. So this is the Spider-Man.
That's another good moment, by the way.
Yes.
Any moment in any superhero movie where the hero's identity is revealed or like someone figures them out, I love that part for some weird reason.
But Michael Keaton's acting is great too. Like you see his expressions as he's piecing it together.
I mean, when it comes to finding out a superhero identity, the best moment of Spider-Man Homecoming is right at the end with Aunt May just coming and go,
"What the?"
But yeah, I like For the Dark World enough, but I like Homecoming way more. Robert, how's Spider-Man Homecoming or For the Dark World?
So, Thor the Dark World, one of the things I liked about it was there was a lot more with Frigga in that, and I think that Frigga was highly underused in the first Thor movie. So I like what they did with her in this one. I also I like what they did with Christopher Eccleston playing Malekith. The problem is even in the comic books, nobody likes Malekith. Why would you go Malekith? Like, he's just one of the most boringest, just redundant, stupid, overused. Like, he has no real character development to him at all. So yeah, kind of when you have that in the comic books, it's not going to translate very well in the movie, and it didn't. But I love Christopher Eccleston's portrayal of him. I think he was fantastic on that. A little less zany than he was in the comics, but a lot more serious and powerful. So yeah, I'm gonna go Spider-Man Homecoming because they essentially took an original idea and then they threw Spider-Man into it, and it worked very well.
And Craig, Spider-Man Homecoming or For the Dark World?
I mean, well, look, it's at the end of the day, Spider-Man Homecoming's been already made its way through. But I do want to say, in defense of Thor: The Dark World, I feel like this film is unfairly maligned, and that I was hoping that it would get a weaker opponent that I could vote in good conscience for it against.
Yeah.
That being said, the Spider-Man Homecoming is. Tom Holland is the best Spider-Man in my opinion, and I was shocked that it would become so clearly that way when he when he took over the role, and there's just such a fun energy to that film, and there's just no way I could in good conscience vote for my lowly Thor: The Dark World over it.
Yeah.
Because of Christian Hall found out about that. How many more IG tournaments can you enter?
So many. I mean, I'm going to be honest. Thor: The Dark World, I do respect the journeys that means Homecoming and Thor: The Dark World, they do have two similar journeys of two characters wanting more responsibility, but then at the end realizing they're not ready for it. So I do like the similar storylines there, but like with the parental dynamics, or at least I felt it more in Homecoming than I did with Thor with the Dark World.
But
I don't want to do this one.
It also Rated Back worked out. Next we've got both Spider-Man movies up against each other, but for now we've got this one. We've got Doctor Strange up against AntMan. And I like both of these. I actually just recently rewatched Doctor Strange this year. It moved up my rankings, but I still like Ant-Man that's a little bit more. Robert, I know you don't want to do this. I'm going to have to ask you anyway.
Don't make me do this, Malcolm. Damn you.
Just get Rock. Let's find Roxy Strider, and then she can make the opinion for all of us.
Yeah. She's just going off of the Benedict Cumberbatch alone,
or just a ridiculous plot.
I love the fun that they had in Ant-Man, and Ant-Man was not a movie I thought that needed. Ant-Man was not a character I felt like needed its own movie in the MCU. Ant-Man, when you're translating from the comics to the movies, he's easily just a secondary character. Like, we're not getting a movie of Hawkeye from Avengers. Anything we want to learn about Hawkeye, it's in other movies, which I'm completely okay with that. I love Hawkeye, but I don't need him to have his own movie. Now, give him his own TV show, that's a different matter. But that's what I thought of Ant-Man. And the Ant-Man movie, I would say, proved me wrong. But the way they did Doctor Strange, the stuff they did in Doctor Strange, especially when you're hearkening back to the visuals that were originally done by Jack Kirby, all of that. Plus, I didn't think Benedict Cumberbatch was going to be a good Doctor Strange, but he pulls it off. And then, of course, what seals the deal for me is the fact that they also used a Pink Floyd song in Doctor Strange right before he gets into the car accident, which is a nod back to Pink Floyd's second album, where Doctor Strange and the Living Tribunal are on the album cover. I'm going to go with Doctor Strange.
Craig, Doctor Strange, or Ant-Man?
So this is a hard one for me because I would say I haven't done my MCU rankings well, but I'd probably put both of these in my top 10. But that being said, there can be only one to move on, and
Highlander.
Exactly.
The first one, not the sequel.
Yeah. I think that Doctor Strange breaks a lot of ground that we didn't see in other films, so I'm going to go with Doctor Strange. The visuals, just the kaleidoscopic ridiculousness of the different realms, and it was a pleasure to behold. And I love the phrase. I love the line over and over again. Dormammu, I've come to bargain. And I feel like there's nothing in Ant-Man that I've ever said nearly as many times as I've said, Dormammu, I've come to bargain.
I would love to see if someone did some kind of like edit where at least one of those times it's actually Bill Murray that pops out and goes, Dormammu, I've come to bargain, and it just goes right back to Benedict Cumberbatch.
Anyway, Ryan, Doctor Strange or Ant-Man?
Oh God! I mean, jeez, both of these movies, if they weren't paired against each other, I would have voted for them on their respective brackets. Yeah, with Ant-Man, as I said before, Ant-Man showed this is a movie that can exist inside the MCU, but that doesn't need to attach to the overall story. And I loved how they made that work, especially with the character of Ant-Man. I mean, shrinking technology, you really don't think it's going to make a big difference in the world overall, but in a sense of what was it? Infiltrating, like doing heists or infiltrating structures, almost in a ways like spy genre. You can see this movie being done that way. And also the idea of the technology with the quantum realm, the fact that it can tap into something much greater than overpass its limits. Oh my God. But yeah, Doctor Strange, just thinking of the whole Dormammu, I've come to bargain. The world itself, the world building of magic in its own, that potential is just much more greater than Ant-Man is. I mean, it's doing great with what it has, but I want to see more with Doctor Strange. So, and also, I mean, I'm not going to oversell the fact that Tilda Swinton did a great job as the Ancient One. Gave the Ancient One a character of someone who's humble, who's funny, has a sense of nobility in them. And at the same time, when they want to teach somebody, they realize they can't just be like a teacher, just like write over a chalkboard over and over again. No, you got to throw them in the thick of it and hope for them to figure it out. So,
especially because that casting came out of left field and you're like, wait, why? And then you're like, okay, this actually works very well.
Yeah. And this, I mean, casting is like, Tilson was great. And, let's not overlook the fact that it's a woman. Yeah, let's not pay attention to the fact that we have a woman playing a character. But, but my vote's going to go to Doctor Strange. I'm sorry, Ant-Man, but it's Doctor Strange.
We've got Avengers Age of Ultron up against the Incredible Hulk. And Robert, what do you say with this one?
I love the idea of doing this because I think everyone has their own opinion of most of the Marvel movies, and we all at some point have in our head, we know like what's the best and what's the worst. But when you start pairing some of these together, you're like, oh, I don't know how I actually would think of this. Age of Ultron was, I think it was much better than I hear most people talking about, especially given how the characterization of Ultron was, like the good and the bad. I know every time I see Ultron from that movie, I want to immediately go hop on eBay and get the hot toys to come join these two over here. But I'm not dropping like $300 on a hot toy like out of nowhere. Incredible Hulk. Hulk has never been my favorite character out of all the Marvel comics. He gets angry, he gets pissed off, he turns green, he smashes things. Got it. But I didn't think that was that huge of a dynamic. 2003 Hulk was terrible. We all agree. That was a terrible movie. I liked the direction that this one went, and I liked the emotional depths that it actually got. And compared to 2003, it was a very cohesive movie. I thought it did very well. I would probably say, even though they switched out the main actor, I would probably say Hulk as an overall cohesive movie would probably get my vote.
Craig, what do you say between the Incredible Hulk and Age of Ultron?
This is one that I was, as soon as you announced the matchup, I was going back and forth on, because I too appreciate the Incredible Hulk. I feel like quite a bit more than a lot of people do, and I am a big Hulk guy myself. I'm in the middle of reading the Immortal Hulk right now. It's a great read, and I feel like, despite that, it's it's like, despite how much of a Hulk fan I am, I'm going to give the edge to Avengers: Age of Ultron. I feel like if we're looking at it just as a solo story, the Incredible Hulk is a more cohesive, more coherent story. It's got a pre-modern family, Ty Burrell in a great role, and we got Tim Blake Nelson. We have the Abomination in the film, but Avengers: Age of Ultron, so like most of what gets set up in the Incredible Hulk just gets like abandoned, whereas in Avengers: Age of Ultron, we set up Black Panther, we set up so much of the rest of the MCU, and I just love Vision as a character, and even though the way that got done in the movie was a little iffy. I would say the ends justify the means. So I'm giving my vote to Age of Ultron.
Ryan, what do you say between Ultron and Incredible Hulk?
I'm gonna say this. I am someone who I actually defend both of these movies because I think there's more redeeming qualities from both of them. Honestly, I'm not saying that they're top 10. But I'm saying when you look at the MCU as a whole, I can understand when people say these are in their bottom 3 or they're their worst ranked. But looking at Incredible Hulk, because I actually, just like Captain Marvel, I stumbled across Hulk on HBO, like not HBO Max, but HBO streaming through the channel. I found it, I rewatched it, and yeah, it's still bad. But some of the bare bits of the story, I saw a bit in Incredible Hulk. You have Bruce Banner dealing with the Hulk, wondering whether if he wants to control it or get rid of it. And just like in 2003's Hulk, the ending of this one ends with Bruce learning to control the Hulk, or at least be able to control his rage. And that does slightly carry over into the first Avengers movie. And even when Mark Ruffalo says the whole point of him wanting to commit suicide, that was like a deleted scene from the Incredible Hulk that I thought would have made the continuity that much better, but because Edward Norton was a pain to work with, according to rumors, that was different. But okay, out of that aside, I mean,
he was a pain to work with, according to anyone who's done a movie with him.
Yeah, but God, man, Ultron. I love the small moments in there with Andy Serkis as Claw, as you have the twins who have this power. They're trying to threaten him, and I love how he goes, "You've never done this before, have you? Threaten somebody." And I love you see how novice they are. I mean, they have no problem standing up to Captain America and the Avengers, but when you pair them against someone like Andy Serkis's Claw, who's used to being intimidated, who's used to dealing with people who are more stronger than him, and I love how he says, "Cuttlefish. If you're going to make me imagine a big cuttlefish here, don't waste my time." Like, I love the fact that there could be characters like this with no powers, but know how to handle themselves in situations, which brought me back to Homecoming, which is why I love that scene when Peter Parker's trying to intimidate Donald Glover's character. And it's like, you haven't done this before either. So, but with James Spader's Ultron, I love how he does represent a bit of Tony Stark's ambition, but also the insecurity that's taken to an 11. So, I mean, coming across it, my vote's going to Ultron because, as I said, there's more redeeming factors in this movie that I say help contribute to the Avengers story as a whole. Because even the Scarlet Witch mind dream sequences, it helps build to where the characters are going later down the road.
Yeah, I'm for what everyone else has said, I'm going Ultron on this. I do think Incredible Hulk is a really underrated MCU movie. I think a lot of people give it more shit than what it deserves. Well, yeah, I mean, while yes, like it does have like plot threads which are just abandoned. Hopefully, they do sort of bring them back, but I think there's rights issues and stuff, which is why they can't or something.
I mean, if they brought Peter Billingsley back for Spider-Man Far From Home, they could bring anyone back.
I mean, if
Yeah.
Tim Blake Nelson is available, we can see him pop up being. I mean, Agents of Shield referenced Emil Blonsky. I'm pretty sure we could see both these characters back.
Yeah, because I desperately want to see the leader in this.
Yes.
Dun, dun, dun.
Are we done with the playing matches? Oh no, we still got 2 more.
Yeah, we've got Thor Ragnarok up against Captain America and the First Avenger.
Oh,
Twist
this one-
my arm. Twist
this
my
one's
arm
easy.
here.
Well, are you kidding? Who do I start? I start with this one. Hands down, Thor Ragnarok. Thor Ragnarok was one of the 3 best MCU films. Taika Waititi's an effing genius. He managed, even though they legally weren't able to do a Hulk film, so he planted a Planet Hulk film into the middle of a Thor film, and he did it masterfully. The entire cast was fantastic. The script was fantastic. Thor Ragnarok, hands down, and one of the best fight scenes in all the MCU, the Battle of Thor versus Hulk. And if that doesn't win you over, you know the infamous line, not infamous, one of the favorite lines from the trailer, where he says he's a friend from work, was a line that was suggested by a Make-A-Wish kid who was on set watching the scene. He said he should say he's a friend from work. And they loved it so much it made the main
I
point.
love that. I love that little bit.
Ryan, what do you say between Ragnarok and First Avenger?
Oh God, man! I mean, immediately when I saw Ragnarok, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna vote for it. But of course, when it's the First Avenger, look, as a period movie, but at least as an origin for Steve Rogers, I kind of like. I still rewatched. I like rewatching this movie because you see Steve Rogers' a mixture of naive and a sense of idealism being how he's able to really gravitate and inspire people around him, like Bucky, Dr. Erskine, Peggy Carter, how he wins over the general, how he's able to win over so many people because of his determination. And my only downside of the First Avenger was I wish that there was no montage of him destroying the Red Skulls. I would have loved to have seen him at least have one or two scenes of him trying to gel with the Commandos, which is why part of me keeps thinking maybe now that Chris Evans is technically done with the movies, maybe we can see a Disney Plus series of Rogers and the Howling Commandos. We go back to World War II and maybe see how he and Peggy try to develop that relationship with each other. And also, we get an appearance from at the time a Game of Natalie Dormer, who's still in her Game of Thrones run. It's kind of like that's a actress who's miscasted, but you know she's there. So, but yeah, with Thor Ragnarok, they took Thor to new heights after the Dark World. There was very, very low expectations with this one. And just to start off, they take everything that the Dark World was being serious about. They threw it across the board, and they're going screw this. We're going our own way. And I'm one of the few that don't like that joke of Bruce Banner throwing himself off the bridge. I cringe every time he hits that floor. But it's small potatoes compared to the overall story that Bruce Banner realizes that he's no longer in control of the Hulk. The Hulk's becoming his own person. And I like that in control. And at the same time, I do see that as a slight dig to Incredible Hulk, when Bruce Banner throws himself off a plane, crashes into the ground, pops up as a Hulk. So I guess, God, I want to abstain, but I'm going to throw a vote in, and I'm going to give Thor Ragnarok because it's more enjoyable. Kate Blanchett is amazing. Tom Hiddleston's Loki has a great arc in this movie. Chris Hemsworth has a great arc, and I love the appearance, and I love seeing that Doctor Strange cameo. So there's just so much more for me to look forward to rewatching this.
Yep, it's going to be. Just hold on. You don't worry, Tiger. Don't worry, Tiger. I'm going to vote yes. Don't worry. You can put away the gun. Yeah, I mean, I would have easily gone for Ragnarok anyway. It's the best out of the Thor trilogy.
Yeah.
Like, and I think
you didn't have to say anything. Just Taika Waititi, we go.
Malcolm, we understand. If you would have said Captain America, they would have given you COVID and thrown you off the island.
and then they would take down the Jojo Rabbit poster behind you.
Yeah.
But anyway, Thor Ragnarok is going to move on. But Robert, where would you have gone on this?
Okay, well, I mean, it doesn't matter, but I love the comedy of Thor Ragnarok. I do like Bruce Banner just hitting that bridge and then he flops off of it like a ragdoll. I thought that was hilarious. Some of the other jokes that they did in that movie I thought were great, especially the beginning of Hulk dangling from the chain while talking to Surtur, and he's all like, "Wait a minute."
Yeah.
Come back around. Anyways, where was I? Like, I love that joke. That played so very well. But Captain America: The First Avenger was such a good movie. And I feel like the more the time goes on, I feel like I'm hearing people that are losing touch with how good of a movie, how much heart that movie actually had. I just rewatched it again like a week ago or so. And there's a part where Stanley Tucci, the Tooch, is talking about how they don't necessarily need the little guy. They need someone with heart. And that's why they went with Steve Rogers. And I felt like that's all that movie was. You're looking from beginning to end. It's just someone who wants to do the right thing, someone who wants to do what he feels compelled in his soul, in his jellies to do.
Yeah.
And I think the way they pulled it off, like not just with him, but with all the other characters, that you got Tommy Lee Jones acting like Tommy Lee Jones. How can you not like that? He's fantastic. And then you got, of course, the Red Skull in there. Oh, they did a fantastic job on him. I absolutely, the whole way around, I love the movie. And then the fact that it ends so perfectly with Steve Rogers waking up in like the modern day, and just his immediate thing is I had a date. I had to go to a dance. Yeah. And then fade to black. And then of course the fact that it leads right into the trailer for Avengers. That is quite possibly, I would almost put that up there with one of the most perfect movies ever made. Not just in the MCU, but just a perfect movie. I have to vote First Avenger.
I do love the Broadway. I do love how he gets the Broadway scene with that old Captain America suit. And I love how he hates it at first, but then when he's seeing how all the kids are really being drawn into this, and you see him starting to warm up to it. And of course, it ends with him doing this to the actual soldiers. And it's like, we don't want you. We want the girls. It's just like, hey, man, I'm just trying to do my part here.
But anyway, we can continue doing this. We're going straight back into this battle. We've got the Winter Soldier up against Thor.
Who wants to volunteer? I was just like, who wants to volunteer to help me beat Hitler? I already volunteered. That's how I got here. I love that line.
Can't remember who, but I think
Ryan's turn to start.
Yeah, it's my turn. It's my turn.
Yeah. So Winter Soldier.
This is another hard one too, because both movies, there was expectations into those. For me with Thor, I remember my first introduction to reading the comics of Thor, like the first 20, 40 issues. It's like, he is a literal god. How are you going to make him work? And while at the time him being like an advanced alien race was okay for a general audience, but then it was by the time then it's like afterwards with the sequels, you gotta realize, are you gonna keep this whole thing of him being an alien? But you know what? I was willing to accept that with the first film. And also, I mean, God, I love the journey. He's a dick. He's a true dickhead, not like Tony Stark, where he's an arrogant jerk whose life is literally held on the line for him to realize, oh, I fucked up. Oh, sorry for the language, but it's just more of Thor is truly arrogant. He made a mistake that's going to cost millions of lives. And his dad, instead of his dad realizing throwing him in jail, he's like, no, I'm going to humiliate you. I'm going to humble you. So those options there. I mean, I love the Winter Soldier. It's great. it's a great film. I'd love to rewatch it, but for me, my vote's going to Thor because not only with just Chris Hemsworth's performance, but at the same time, Tom Hiddleston. We never would have gotten such a great performance from Tom Hiddleston in Loki in this movie. And with the Shakespearean and Machiavellian aspects that's thrown into this with the Asgardian family that is Loki, Thor, and Odin, I can even stomach the scenes on Earth with Kat Dennings and Stellan Skarsgård and Natalie Portman because they're literally our eyes and ears. They're literally us trying to introduce ourselves to Thor without his superpowers. And at the same time, I still remember my nieces when they saw this movie for 5 weeks. Whenever they had a plastic glass or a plastic cup, they always said, "Another." I'm like, you know what? Your dad's going to kill me if you steal again. So I'm going to go with Thor on this one. I may be the only one here, but I'm going with Thor.
Yeah, this is a tough one for me, but I'm ultimately going to go with the Soldier on this one. I love Thor. I do think like Loki and all that is great, but I think what the Winter Soldier did for the MCU and also for what it sort of did to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., it kind of helped. But if we didn't have Winter Soldier, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. wouldn't have sort of gone on its own journey itself. But I think Winter Soldier is a great movie, and I think for what it did with the spine, just everything, just having Captain America sort of go up against what he usually his ideals was, and just going against type and being on the run and all that, and it's just incredible. Like with getting these reference to Doctor Strange at one stage as well, it's just amazing. But Robert, where do you go? Where are you going on with the Soldier and Thor?
Oh man, Thor was so good though. Like as far as it being an origin story and really weird origin story, that was so good. But Winter Soldier is what really turned the MCU. It's what set the MCU in full-fledged motion. I have to go with Winter Soldier.
Mm-hmm. Craig, whereabouts are you going on with the Soldier and Thor?
I mean, look, even Ryan, who voted for Thor, admitted that those Earth-based scenes in Thor were just very difficult to watch. And, it's like, that's what part of the reason why I'm actually a big Thor: The Dark World defenders. It's like I kind of like it better than the first Thor, just because of the you don't get that tonal mismatch that you do in the first Thor. And I mean, look, the Winter Soldier, it's the first entry into the MCU by the Russo brothers, and we get Robert effing Redford as a villain of all things, and it's just it to me is the far superior film.
So Winter Soldier is moving on, and we're going to kick off in round 2, and I'm just going to start from the bottom, which is where we are now, which is Captain America: Civil War versus Winter Soldier. And I'm going to kick it off here. I mean, I like Civil War and what it did when it brought in Spider-Man and Black Panther. But just for basically what I said about Winter Soldier before, I'm going to have to give my vote to Winter Soldier. I like it that a little bit more. Robert, where do you go on Civil War versus the Winter Soldier?
Civil War was really good just because, I mean, it was essentially Avengers, 2.5?
Yeah.
And introduced Spider-Man and Black Panther, and it did a whole lot. But I still got to lean on my previous statement that Winter Soldier is what changed the MCU. It's what set the MCU in motion. Civil War wouldn't have even been a thought if it wasn't for Winter Soldier, which is weird because the actual comic book stories that they're both loosely based on, I love the Civil War story more than the Winter Soldier. But as far as the movie goes, Winter Soldier has to be the higher ranked, even though Civil War has the coolest that airport scene is just awesome.
Yeah. Craig, Civil War or the Winter Soldier?
So yeah, I mean, I get to say, like, at the end of the day, so Civil War has one of the best fight scenes in all the MCU in it, but Winter Soldier is one of the smartest films in the MCU, and Civil War is one of the dumbest movies in the MCU. The Zemo plot makes no sense when you try to figure out what he was doing and how lucky he had to get for everything to go what he was trying to do. And it's like, that's the type of thing that the MCU typically avoids. And, I think they're able to get away with it and be forgiven for it because of all the fun things that they do accomplish with this film in terms of, the new character introductions and just those amazing fight scenes. But it's just, to me, it's almost a low point in the MCU. So I'm definitely going with the Winter Soldier.
And Ryan, Winter Soldier or Civil War?
I'm actually one of the few defenders of Zemo. Now, he is very, very lucky when it comes to his plan. But I think he's but Civil War gave us a character Zemo in a way was just like Claw, a character there's nothing special about him. He's very heavy. He has training. He's pretty much like your simple foot soldier, but he saw an opportunity and he did the best he could with it. Now, yeah, he could have been caught so easily before. But at the same time, I actually think the fight between Cap, Bucky, and Iron Man is much better than the airport scene because the stakes are that important. Because in the airport scene, it's a great fight, but you clearly see that one side is holding back. Pretty much 80% of the people there are holding back, while a few like Black Panther, Scarlet Witch, and Spider-Man, they're not holding back.
Yeah,
but. Yeah, overall, looking at it, I still think Civil War is a Captain America movie, despite with all the Avengers there. In some ways, an Iron Man movie too. But yeah, Winter Soldier, I mean, there's just no question about it. It changed the game for everything. It took away what was going to be the Deus Ex Machina of S.H.I.E.L.D. and made us realize these heroes, they have to start fending on their own. They got to stand on their own 2 feet.
And then Age of Ultron gave us the Deus Ex Machina shield back.
And the next one, we have got the Avengers up against Thor Ragnarok, I believe, once it actually loads.
It's like you're trying to make me pick between my favorite nephews.
Difference is their nieces don't have to put on a show to say which one of us you like more, my piano side or my clarinet.
It's not loading, Malcolm. There we go.
Oh, all right. So I'm going to step away for just a second. Otherwise, this is going to be very hard to continue the rest of the stream.
Uh-oh.
There was a lot of this.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Well, I'll try. Yeah. I'll go first then, and I'll just say this is very, very hard for me to say because the original Avengers is like I think both of these are top 5 MCU films for me, but I put Thor Ragnarok above the Avengers because just it took a character that had been something of a low point for people in the previous films, Thor, and just like re-energized him into took his franchise into an entirely different direction in a way that felt natural and in a way that felt good and in a way that they made him a joke without making him a joke in a weird way. And some other points we didn't hit when we were talking about this movie earlier. Jeff Goldblum, Korg. I mean, like, I keep wanting to call her Topaz, and I'm not sure why. Her name Topaz?
Jeff Goldblum's henchwoman.
Yeah.
It's Topaz. It's Topaz.
Topaz. Yeah, it is Topaz.
Unless you mean Valkyrie, Tessa Thompson's character.
No. Topaz. She's Rachel House.
Yeah,
Topaz. She's great. And yeah, there's still like just front to back to it. Carl Urban with his guns, Dez and Troy. It's so incredible, so fun. All right, so that is my vote as Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah.
Ryan, for Ragnarok or the Avengers?
God. Okay.
Now, before you vote, remember that Malcolm will get kicked off the island if he does not vote for Ragnarok. So, it's this could be the deciding vote right here.
Oh wow.
Not put too much pressure on you.
Fuck, I don't want to put the pressure on Malcolm. I mean, but as much as I love Thor Ragnarok, though, I mean, I still love the Avengers. Not because of the fact that it did something like did a great team up movie, but it did a good job. It did its job of knowing how to juggle their characters, how to pair some of them up. I still love when Shield needs to get Hulk and Tony Stark. They know exactly which ones they want to use. Like Coulson's the one to get Tony, Natasha they use to get Bruce. And even then, I love Mark Ruffalo's introduction as Bruce in this series. That scene in Calcutta where he's isolated off the edge of town and I love that look on his face. He's just, oh God, I should have gotten paid for this. Like I love it. Should have got paid up front. Like he clearly is joking on it, not to alleviate stress, but he knows what's coming next. And even knowing what happens later in the movie, rewatching that again, you clearly see Banner not only had a line, like a handle on the Hulk, that he was always in control from minute one to that moment where he grabs that scepter. I love that moment. Like it's kind of like a play on. So like you think when Banner grabs that scepter, is that him grabbing it, or is that the scepter messing with his head, wanting him to be aggressive? And but I mean, to be honest, when it came to both of these movies on first view, there were some choices I did not like. I was not a fan of Taika being Korg's voice, but of course, on rewatch, I've grown to love it now because he's just there to undercut so much of the freaking tension, and it's fantastic. Like, so this hammer, it's almost as if you relate this hammer to that of a loved one, and now that it's gone, it hurts.
The hammer pulled you off.
With a hammer on your back.
Get out of here, ghost.
Okay, God, this is such a hard one. God damn it. I'm most likely gonna be kicked off the island. I'm going for the Avengers.
Yeah, this is tough because they're both in my top 10. But like I love what the Avengers did, like being the first team up that they did, and they showed that you can do a team up properly in a movie and give everyone a good amount of screen time each. And something that Justice League wish they could have been, but we'll see how the Snyder Cut changes it. But that being said, I do like Thor Ragnarok that slightly more.
Taika.
But Robert, are you going with Ragnarok or the Avengers?
Ooh, you're gonna like where this is gonna go. I love Thor Ragnarok. It is really a good movie. But the Avengers is what really brought everything together. The Avengers is what kind of like solidified in that beginning of forming the MCU. It's what brought everyone together. It was the original one that, like, during that shot that we've all seen, that we all know what I'm talking about in that shot. Yeah. It's the one that caused everyone in the audience to be like, hell yeah, got the Avengers. Let's go. The Avengers. It's the originator. If had the Avengers not pulled off what it needed to do, the rest of the MCU could not even think about existing, including Winter Soldier, which I feel like this might come up again in a little bit. But
so you said it pulled it off.
The hammer pulled you off. I'm Korg. I'm a rock.
Don't let that intimidate you unless you're afraid of scissors.
That's a rock, paper, scissors joke.
So you're going Avengers there, Robert?
I'm going to go Avengers.
So what do we do in case of a tie?
I'm going to go to the chat. So Garth, I think, is the only one in the chat at the moment, if he's still there. Avengers or Thor Ragnarok?
I mean, there has to be more in the chat. No.
Yeah.
Well, there's, apparently, I mean, there's 3 people watching, but Garth is the only one that's commented the last few minutes.
So anyone in the chat,
And the first comment I see will be the one that I do. Otherwise, it's going to be a case of the higher ranked will be the one that moves on.
boo,
Says Avengers.
boo.
There's the
Garth
choice.
with Avengers.
Yep.
Boo, Garth. Garth, you've made a powerful enemy this day.
Oh boy.
See if that gets avenged in a video chronic quiz.
But next up, we've got Iron Man versus Age of Ultron. I'm going to start with Ryan.
Well, I mean, it's Iron Man. Honestly, that's my vote. I mean, it's not just the fact that it was the originator, but that movie in itself, Iron Man. From what I remember of the animated series of Iron Man, it was just like that character looked like he could not be the if you had to look at any Marvel hero you'd want to set as someone to kick off a universe. In reality, back during the time in 2008, Iron Man would not have been that character you'd want to kick it off with. And at the same time with Robert Downey Jr., I mean, so the fact that Robert Downey Jr., he made it work. Jon Favreau's direction was fantastic. And as much as some people may not like Jeff Bridges' character, I think his character was a solid villain. And also, I still love that interaction between him in that cave with Yinsen. Those little small conversations they have with each other, just trying to learn a little bit about each other while building this suit to escape. And I love even then when Yinsen's life is put at risk, Tony's willing to stick himself out there and go, no, I need him. I need him. Because in most regular situations, Tony could not have said it. He couldn't have said anything and let what was going to happen to Yinsen happen. That shows that Tony was slowly changing that moment in that scene. And then even afterwards, when Yinsen says, don't waste your life, I like how it carries with him throughout that movie. So it's Iron Man.
Yeah. This is it's Iron Man for me as well. Iron Man is one of those ones which I do like, and I mean there's the parallel between Far From Home, just seeing Peter Parker just working on his suit while Happy is watching on. It's just a great sort of parallel between the Iron Man, in which you see Tony making his suit, and it's just one of those ones in which it's such a great movie. It originated the MCU, and if it didn't work, we wouldn't have had anything else past it. Who knows how long it would have lasted if Iron Man just didn't work. Robert, Iron Man or Age of Ultron?
Don't need to defend it or explain, just Iron Man.
Craig, Iron Man.
And, we'll make it an official sweep. The only thing that I'll add to this is that even if it hadn't launched the entire MCU, just as a standalone film, Iron Man was one of the best superhero films that was made. And fantastic. Let us unanimous sweep.
Keep in mind, that movie also came out the same year as The Dark Knight.
Yep.
True. Woo.
Yeah, it did.
Great year for superhero movies.
Next up, we've got Black Panther versus Doctor Strange. And I'm going to kick this off. This one is tough because, I mean, I've already said what I need to do about Doctor Strange. Black Panther is one of those ones I didn't know how it was going to work, sort of following Civil War, just with him being king and all that. And it's just... Yeah. I really like what they did because you got like Winston Duke, Daniel Kaluuya, whole bunch of really great sort of black actors in this, just coming in. I believe Angela Bassett was there somewhere as well. But yeah, this is great. Like the battle with Killmonger is, I think, is a really good battle, and I think it's really fun. I'm probably going to go Black Panther, but this is just barely. Robert, what do you say, Black Panther or Doctor Strange?
I mean, culturally, I would want to say Black Panther because I don't. I like out of the. I would say out of the entire MCU, culturally, the movie that has had the most impact was Black Panther. It's the one that it reaches a lot of people, and not just Black people. It reaches a lot of people, like personally overall. Doctor Strange it reaches a perfect like comic book movie. Oh, good Lord. This one I don't know. Okay, I'll go with Black Panther just because I know the meaning behind that movie just to begin with. And the fact that it was, I will admit, it's not a character I resonate with. Probably goes without saying. But I do like what they did with that character, and the movie overall, I think fantastic job telling the story, getting the certain aspects that at least I believe they needed to get with Black Panther. I think they nailed, and I think it was done very well. So yeah, Black Panther.
Yeah, so this for me is a tough one also, just because of how much I love Doctor Strange. But with Black Panther, it's an MCU film that's literally like epic in scale, epic in scope, and it's I think that Killmonger is one of the few MCU villains that really resonated with people. As much as we love the Dormammu scenes, it's like Dormammu, was more of more of just an idea than an actual character. And I'd give Doctor Strange the edge on visuals, but everything else I would give the edge to Black Panther. I'll also point out Black Panther is the only MCU film to have won an Academy Award.
Sure. Oh yeah.
But Ryan, which way would you have gone for Black Panther or Doctor Strange?
Obviously Black Panther. I mean, not just for the relatability and the impact it had, but just the idea. I mean, because I'm going to say this, Black Panther is just like AntMan and Guardians of the Galaxy. This movie can exist in the MCU, but never have that much of effect on the overall MCU story. That's why I like that this movie is very self-contained. It doesn't have to affect, it doesn't need to garner the attention of the outside world, like including Tony Stark, Captain America, or at the time. And I like how at the same time this movie, it's not a true origin story. We got our origin, we got our introduction to T'Challa. This movie is all about Wakanda and its importance. That's what I love about this movie itself. And to some people, yes, Michael Jordan was great, fantastic as Killmonger. We relate to him because we are like him. We're seeing Wakanda from the outside, which is why I think Chadwick Boseman playing T'Challa, being someone who knows all about Wakanda, you can see in his heart he wants to do the right thing, but then at the same time he's conflicted because he has to remain loyal to his people. He has to do right by his people as a king, which is why I love the moment when you have Martin Freeman's character injured in front of him, and there's this and you have right there Okoye and Nakia. They're literally the two angels on his side, but one of them is the super id, and then one of them's like the ego or so. It's kind of like, which one you gonna do? Logic and emotion. Help him because he saved my life, or we can't help him because it risks exposure for our country. And I like how T'Challa is right there in the middle, and he makes that decision to bring him and help, and that decision pays dividends because of Martin Freeman's character. Sure, he's the obligatory white guy, but his character is important because not only does he help with stopping the weapons from escaping Wakanda, he becomes, I mean, in the comics, Ross is pretty much the what's the attaché or the to Wakanda from the U.S. government. So that it helps establish Ross's relationship with Wakanda. It helps establish if moving forward with Black Panther 2, how now that the world knows of Wakanda and their technology, what's going to happen forward. So even looking back on rewatches, while Ross is like a very, very minor character, I think he's one of those characters who's going to play a key role maybe in the future of a sequel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were thinking the word ambassador.
Yes, ambassador.
I thought attaché also works though. Special attaché.
Yeah. No.
Okay.
Yeah. That's how I got ambassador.
Yeah, both work. They both work.
Yes.
They both work. You're both.
All
You are again both correct.
Okay.
But we move on to the next battle. We've got Far From Home versus Homecoming.
Ooh, the battle of Spider-Man.
Starting with Robert.
You gonna start with me?
Yeah.
So here's the thing. Unfortunately, I'm a little bit biased on one single fact. I love Mysterio, and he will be the next Hot Toys joining back here. Mysterio was so good, and that scene, that one little clip where he sent Spider-Man through his illusion stuff. Oh, it was so good. That was in it just by itself made the entire movie. Far From Home, hands down, easily the best of the two.
Craig, Far From Home or Homecoming?
I will easily say Homecoming. I enjoy Far From Home, but Michael Keaton's Vulture really does it for me. You know, and you know, even being a villain, he's not like an evil guy. Like he's someone who's been trodden upon. And well, at the end of the movie, he is a little protective of Peter, perhaps.
Yeah.
He does. So But the twist when it was revealed that he was the father was just an incredible moment. We don't have anything like that. Well, all right, it might be a bit to see anything like that in Far From Home because we do have that incredible twist in Far From Home as well. But to me, I think they're both really high quality. Tom Holland is amazing in both of these. Both have terrific casts, but I got to give it to Michael Keaton, and also a shout out to Nacho from Better Call Saul, who's the Scorpion. So love that too. And we got Bokeem Woodbine as the Shocker. We got so many great villains in this.
So Ryan, Far From Home or Homecoming?
Damn. God. I think outside of Mysterio and a few interactions with Peter and MJ and Ned, there's really not much of Far From Home to secure my vote. So I'm gonna go with Homecoming. I mean, Far From Home is good. I like how when Peter goes to Europe, he has this plan. He has plans laid out on what he wants to do with MJ. Why he like throughout the entire movie, he has to constantly keep adapting. Obstacles are put in his way. Like he just wants to chill with MJ. Guess not. Nick Fury is there to say, no, you got a job to do. And then Mysterio is like, no, be a normal kid. And I like that moment in the bar because you see two great moments happen. You see Peter at a true crisis of conscience, and then you have Mysterio as the manipulator and as the manipulator really showing like he just put on this grand show for Peter, doing the self-sacrifice, and then goes, I'm done. What am I going to do now? And then Peter goes, no. And it's like Peter, he thinks he found the perfect way out of it, and then realizes he literally played into his hands. You clearly see Peter is seriously just a kid. And I love that speech he says too. Like at the end when he's done with that speech, he just says, tough break, kid, or like too bad, kid, like tough luck. It's like you show he has regret doing that to Peter. And then later on with the holographic scene, he has he shows signs of mania, but there are elements of Mysterio to realize that he's just somebody who's down on his luck. Like you can almost see that Mysterio, it could have been Peter if things had not gone his way. But ultimately with Homecoming, I feel Peter was much more of his own character in that movie.
Yeah, like this is one after I rewatched Far From Home recently, it dropped a little bit for me. I do love both of these movies still, but my vote is going to go to Homecoming on this. But yeah, these two tend to could easily flip flop for me depending on when you ask me as well. But
they really can. Like if I had rewatched Far From Home 3 days ago, that would have gotten my vote.
But next up, we've got Infinity War and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. And going to start with Craig on this.
I mean, for me, Infinity War is a masterpiece of cinema. And Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is a flawed film. So it's an easy Infinity War for me. Battle of Wakanda and the Battle on Planet Titan were both two terrific battle sequences, and this is just a 2.5-hour movie filled with just joy. And then the boldest thing they did was they made Thanos the main character, and it's such a brilliant move because how else are you going to tie together a movie about 40 different superheroes fighting one villain? You make the villain the main character, and it works so ridiculously well and much better than anyone could have expected. So for me, hands down, Infinity War.
Ryan, Infinity War or Guardians Volume 2?
Oh. Okay.
You're filling the stream with silence.
This is the sound of silence.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
Yeah.
Oh God! Wow.
You're back 1 second, gang.
The original or
both of these movies are
better.
Oh shit. They're both going back and forth in my head now. I don't know. I guess for me, the build. Oh God damn it! This one. You know what? I'm going Guardians. I'm going Guardians on this one. I do enjoy Infinity War, and the best Thanos was the best choice. And you see how focusing the story on him does give you a little more insight into Gamora, seeing what happened to her people. Like it's always like you hear from her as she says that Thanos killed her, but then when you killed her family, but then when you see it happen, that's like another situation. And then you see how Thanos really truly favored Gamora as a daughter. But at the same time in Volume 2, that rivalry between Gamora and Nebula to where when Nebula is free of imprisonment, she literally could have done anything the moment she gets her shit, but the first thing she does is to go back and attack Gamora because she truly wants to prove she is the better fighter amongst the two of them. And then I love how even afterwards she has a moment where she has Gamora. She decides to let it go. And instead of just trying to kill her, she just goes, I win. And then it just leads to where, and even breaks for Nebula's walls. Where Nebula always was so for Gamora, she was always so focused on her pain. And then I love that moment at the end. She realized, I didn't stop to think what you were going through. And it's that bond between the two of them, which definitely builds into Infinity War, which is how Thanos uses Nebula to make Gamora tell him where the Soul Stone is. And then in an InGame, you see the new version. You see Nebula confront her past self and confront Gamora to where she says to Gamora, I tried to kill you a couple of times, but eventually we became friends. And even then, it's kind of implied we really became sisters afterwards. So I'm going with Guardians of the Galaxy on this one.
Yeah. This is pretty easy for me. Like, while I do like Guardians too, I do think Infinity War is my most favorite out of the two, so I'm going Infinity War. Robert, really going with Infinity War and Guardians too.
Between the two of those, I would say pretty safely, I'm gonna go with I'm gonna go with the Thanos thing there. Infinity War. It was the bigger movie. It had the most like the most at stake in it, and then it also ended with the very much loved Empire Strikes Back type of ending. So and it pulled it off. It's one of those that you weren't like, oh, you did like in Empire Strikes Back. You're just copying them and making the heroes lose. No, it did a very good job of pulling off the heroes lose in this movie. And yeah, it's definitely the stronger of the two movies.
You should have went for the head.
Next up, we've got Guardians of the Galaxy versus Iron Man 3.
Oof.
And I'm going to start off here. And this is pretty easy for me. Like, Guardians of the Galaxy was a movie that just really no one knew who they were. No one knew if it was a movie that was going to work. They managed to make it work. I mean, I think Iron Man 3 is a good movie, but compared to Guardians 1 is easily the best. Robert, where are you going on this one?
Iron Man 3 was one of those that, like, when you first watch it, you're like, wait, what? Huh? Typically I would have said Iron Man 3 was the weaker, and I love Guardians. I really love Guardians because I love everything they did with pretty much every character in that movie. But Iron Man 3 is one of those that after you've watched it, you watch it more and more. Every time you watch it, you gain more and more appreciation. Like even now, I hated Trevor Slattery. And I actually kind of like his character now. He's really ridiculous and he's fun. But I think there's a lot more fun characters and a lot better of a story in Guardians. And the fact that Guardians of the Galaxy pulled off what I don't believe could have been pulled off, and that's taking not even a B, not even a C list character, straight up D list characters and making them box office successes. That's absolutely amazing. Guardians easily.
Craig, where are you going with Guardians and Iron Man 3?
I'll make this succinct. Iron Man 3 is my least favorite MCU film. I like it as a movie, but I think it's better as a standalone film than it is as part of the overall MCU, because anything that happens in it basically gets undone immediately after the film. And whereas Guardians of the Galaxy, it was just an amazing, just new, fun, unexpected delight.
And Ryan, where are you going with for this one?
Well, let's just make it a clean sweep. It's going to be Guardians, because Guardians was kind of like the trailblazer for movies like Ant-Man, Black Panther, and Thor Ragnarok, and even Doctor Strange, for movies to happen inside the MCU but not affect the overall main story. And I agree with Robert. The more on rewatch of Iron Man 3, some of the choices done make even more sense. Of Aldrich Killian, being the puppet master behind the scenes, Trevor Slattery being this little figurehead of someone to terrify. Like, how are we gonna clean up a science experiment that went bad? Oh, we'll just say it's terrorists. And even with Tony Stark, at first I was a little hesitant with the PTSD, but then on rewatch, and especially after doing a back-to-back of Avengers and Iron Man 3, you see it does make sense. He had a near-death situation in space, to where in most situations, if he did not fall through that portal when it closed, he literally could have died out there in space, never coming back. So I can understand how it affects him moving forward, how it affected his relationships. And even before, the kid, I did not like the kid at first, but then when we look back on it, you're seeing Tony Stark having to deal with someone who has a similar attitude as he does, like very childish in nature, and at the same time, he develops a bond, a kinship with that kid to make him realize, I can't just freaking hide out here. I gotta go.
But yeah, the final matchup we have for round 2 is Avengers Endgame up against Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Come on.
This is easy for me. It's
This one
Endgame.
will be a snap.
Would you like to save some time on this stream?
Yes. Oh, let me grab one of mine. I'm gonna grab one of mine.
I mean, anyone not going to vote for Endgame?
just put Endgame. Let's go.
I mean, we've literally talked about that when we talked about the MCU moments anyway.
Give me a second. Hold on. I'm going to change your mind, Malcolm, in a few minutes. Give me a second here. All right. In 3, 2, 1. Damn it. I didn't snap. It's still there. God. Oh.
But with that, we move on to round 3, and we can speed up through here to talk about these movies a lot, all of them now. Endgame versus Guardians of the Galaxy. Anyone not going Endgame?
I mean, I'd just say briefly that there are very few films that I would put above Guardians of the Galaxy, but Endgame is definitely one of them. So I'm voting Endgame.
Ryan?
It means Endgame is a true swan song for Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans. I mean, I love Guardians, but that end credit scene with the cast and the signatures, that still brings a tear to my eye. So, yeah, I'm going Endgame.
Robert?
I got to go Endgame also.
Yeah, Endgame. It's a clean sweep there. Next up, we've got Infinity War versus Homecoming.
So either way, one of these are going up against Endgame.
I mean,
hey, that sounds like me and my brother doing the video chronic quiz. Hey,
but yeah, I'm going Infinity War on this one. Robert,
Infinity War.
Craig,
Infinity War.
and Ryan.
Homecoming. I'm kidding. It's Infinity War.
And just like that, Thanos snaps out home SpiderMan once again.
Oh, I don't feel so well. I don't feel so well.
That's really interesting. We got Iron Man versus Black Panther.
Ooh.
That's a good one.
It's hard. You know what? This might be an unpopular opinion. I'm gonna go Iron Man.
Ryan.
It's not really unpopular though. I mean, a part of me is going with Iron Man. I mean, I want to go with Black Panther too. I'm literally divided here. But I'm just gonna make a quick decision, a snap decision, if you will. I will just to see where we're gonna go with. I will be on that island. I'm gonna say Black Panther.
I'm going Iron Man. Robert.
I'll probably have to go Iron Man also.
Okay.
It's just way more significant overall.
I was curious.
We've got the Avengers versus Captain America: The Winter Soldier. I'm gonna start with Ryan.
Both trailblazers, both change the direction, but
oof, yeah.
I guess if you're gonna go with which one had a more lasting impact, then logic says it's the Winter Soldier with that twist. So I'm going Winter Soldier. I mean, both movies have great moments we could pick apart, but I'm gonna put my decision on which one had a lasting impact on the universe.
I mean, I'm going with Avengers on this just because it showed that you can do a massive team up and make it work. Robert, where are we going on this?
Oh, jeez. See, like, I know Infinity War versus Endgame, that was the one I was afraid that would come down between the two of them, but I was also afraid of this one. For basically the same exact reason. Both of them were big, significant changes to the MCU. I think I am barely going to have to say Avengers. It sticks out just a little bit more. I will say Avengers solely because Avengers encompasses everything they're trying to do, by creating the Marvel Cinematic Universe to begin with. It's Winter Soldier's fantastic movie, fantastic storyline, takes everything in a great direction. It really opens up the MCU for what it could be. Avengers is the pinnacle of what they originally set out to do by making the MCU. So, yeah, Avengers has to get it.
And Craig, where are you going on this one?
I'm going to do a write-in vote for Thor Ragnarok.
Just for the curve.
Yeah, no, but if you don't allow the write-in votes, then I'll go the Avengers.
And the Avengers is moving on. Which means, if I remember rightly, the first semi-final matchup we've got is Iron Man versus the Avengers. I'll start it off. This is tough. Iron Man started it, but I'm going with Avengers because they showed that you can do a team up and what they were planning works. Robert?
Yeah, that's the thing. Do you go with essentially you've got what kicked it all off, what started it, and then what the perceived pinnacle was. Oh, yeah, I'll probably have to go with Avengers. Because, yeah, it's still the culmination of everything they wanted to do by starting the MCU to begin with.
Yeah. And not only was that a pinnacle Avengers, but then at the end when they showed the Thanos, it's like you thought this was our top. No, we are just getting started.
Absolutely.
These are both top 5 for me, but I'm going the Avengers.
Ryan.
Well, I guess I'm that light standing across an infinite shroud of darkness.
Don't do
Iron Man. I'm doing it. Iron Man. I mean, you talk about that end credit of Thanos there. That end credit of Nick Fury still with the whole I'm here to talk to you about the Avengers Initiative. I mean, even that itself, Marvel was telling you this was at least our quote end game at the time. This was where we were projecting ourselves towards. And yes, that quote and the mid credit with Thanos, that's also a great moment because then it's like we hit our goal. Now let's go even beyond. But they had to walk. Iron Man taught them to walk before they could fly.
But now, speaking of Endgame, we've got Endgame versus Infinity War. Robert.
I told you, I hate this one. Ugh.
This is kind of easy for me.
This matchup was inevitable.
And get the shade.
I mean, personally, I hate what's going to come after this.
Clearly.
You mean the slaughter?
Oh, yeah, because that one's definitely going to be a slaughter.
Well, since this is going to be all Avengers, I'll just keep this on with me.
Robert, you still thinking that?
He's still deciding.
I'm still trying to think.
You've never contemplated this before?
I have, but I haven't done it with serious people with me as far as this stream.
We're not that serious.
No.
I know Craig with your Elvis. Where's Elvis, by the way? Oh, okay.
He's in the other room. He's watching Citizen Kane.
Fantastic.
Oh, he's gonna be heartbroken when he learns the fate of Rosebud. Oh,
oof.
Yeah.
No spoilers, guys. Don't let him know.
Jeez. Again, here's the thing: when people talk about Star Wars, and you ask most Star Wars fans, what's their favorite movie? A lot of people say Empire, just because of that ending. It was the letdown. It's you see the heroes crushed, and that's what makes their comeback even better. So something like that, I would have said Infinity War, but Endgame was so good. Oh, I don't know. I'm probably going to have to go Endgame. I think there was a lot more lot more that resonated with me in Endgame. As good as Infinity War was, I think it was Infinity War was over, and I was eager to see what they would do following Infinity War, and I was not let down. And honestly, I think if the MCU stopped at Endgame, I would be perfectly happy. I like that it's gonna keep going eventually, whenever this pandemic thing is over. But I like what Endgame did.
Craig, Endgame or Infinity War?
So this is an easy one for me. I go with Infinity War, and the large part of that is because Infinity War itself had just a level of suspense and tension that Endgame didn't have. You know, the stakes were in a sense relatively low in Endgame because you start that movie, everyone's dead. So while yes, bringing back half the living things was a good goal to try to achieve, it's like they were already gone, so you had nowhere to go but up. Whereas in Infinity War, you're working and fighting that entire film to stop a madman, and he's gaining ground every step of the way, and his victory did not feel inevitable. His victory felt avoidable, and that's one of the great things about in Infinity War. Whereas in Endgame, you knew they were going to win in the end, and it was just a question of which characters would die in the process.
Yeah.
But Ryan, where are you going on this?
Honestly, Craig's statements are kind of similar to what I thought of. I mean, look, to be honest, there's always those little lines. What everyone loves more than a hero is to see a hero fall. The thing is, I love the journey that they go through, and Infinity War encapsulates that journey. Because even though some people could have easily said, "Oh, they were easily going to win," but when you rewatch Infinity War, you look at where everyone is at in this movie. Other than the Guardians, all of our Earth, mainly the Earth-based Avengers, they are slightly broken apart mentally, psychologically, and emotionally. Like, technically, it's all three. But even then, the whole every time they kept saying, "We don't trade lives," or "We're gonna do what we can to stop this." And Tony, the hysteria he had of the fact that the moment he learned from Bruce that Thanos was behind Loki, he was dialed in at that second. He's like, everything he feared was happening. And so you can understand why he was so adamant of fighting against Doctor Strange, why he did not want Peter anywhere near all of this. And then guess what? He tried, he failed, and then seeing everything held dear to him taken away. I mean, we do learn in Endgame Pepper survived. But if Pepper did not survive that snap, we truly would have had a broken Tony in Endgame. But I'm just going with Infinity War. There's no buts about it. Endgame is great, a great crescendo. It has great moments, but there are still some 5 characters whose emotional arcs really start to collide on each of the battle scenes with Thor, with Thor and Captain America, with Scarlet Witch and Vision, and then on Titan with Doctor Strange, with Star-Lord. With
Star-Lord and Gamora at the in nowhere.
Yes, that moment, and even then, I mean, with Drax was he had very small moments, but I love that moment on Nowhere to where he wants to avenge. They stop him, and I love how they do take time. He thinks about it, and then he makes that choice, and then it's kind of like it's foreshadowing with Peter with Quill as well. To when he learns that Gamora's dead, you hear Tony. Like he's trying to tell him, but then of course the great editing to where he's muffled in the background. Like you're in Peter's shoes. You don't hear anything except what you heard. Gamora's dead, and he went full hot-headed. He went red.
But this is tough for me. Initially in my head, I was going to go Endgame, but Craig and what Craig sort of said about Infinity War, it kind of swayed me to go on for Infinity War on this. I like both of these movies a lot, and it works so well as one big movie
Yeah, they're like 1 and 1A for me.
yeah.
They're that close. That close.
Yeah. So
You guys are traitor to cinema, regardless of what Baby says.
Oh man.
Infinity War causes the upset and takes out the number one seed, which means we've got
You realize what you guys are saying is that y'all would have been perfectly fine had Empire Strikes Back just stopped and that was the end of Star Wars.
No, because that wasn't Empire Strikes Back was a completely different film. It was not an epic in scale like Infinity War was. Empire Strikes Back was on 3 different planets. But this isn't it. Look, we can do another podcast on comparing Star Wars to the MCU. But let's finish this tournament right now.
But which means our finals is going to be Infinity War up against the Avengers.
Oh man!
I'm going to start with Ryan on this.
Okay. I mean, to take that joke that you just said, Robert, if the MCU ended on either of these movies, I personally would have been happy. If it ended on the Avengers teasing of the future that Thanos was going to happen, I would have been happy. If Infinity War ended knowing that our heroes had suffered a true loss, I would have been good too, because then that paints itself as a great tragedy, that no matter how hard they tried, ultimately in the end, they still failed. Like, I mean, as much as we don't want actual tragedies in our lives, on paper, or at least when it comes to books and on story-wise, tragedies make a lot of sense because there's always a lot to learn from it. But okay, all right, let me get out of that spiel and make my decision. I'm going to actually go with Infinity War on this one.
Yeah, I'm going to go Infinity War on this one as well. Just because I think it started off what was going to be an epic conclusion in Endgame. And I think just with what it did, I think was an interesting way to do it. Robert, were you going Infinity War or the Avengers?
I'm going to go with Infinity War as well.
And Craig, where would you have gone?
I mean, I said about already. This is number one with a bullet for me. Infinity War.
And with that, Infinity War is going to be the number one. But
oof.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like
that's all right. That's okay. I've done so many of your rankums, Malcolm, to know we're never gonna make the people happy.
You know, I'm happy. I'm satisfied with what happened.
I mean, it's one of those ones like as soon as I saw Endgame and Infinity War up against each other, I knew it was going to be a tough battle for that one. But with that being said, we have reached the end of late night. But Robert, where can people find you online?
You can find me as a part of the Cinefanatics. We are at the Cinefanatics YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/Cinefanatics. Over there, we are doing things like the Schmodown replay, which is a whole new way of reacting to Schmodown matches. So as Schmodown matches are coming up, we are essentially reacting to them live, hopefully with a special guest that's going to give us that kind of insight that you really want to hear in regards to the match that we're watching. So come follow us. Right now we are doing the 4 times a week because that's what Schmodown's doing. So therefore that's what we do too. 4 times a week, we are live streaming over on the Cinefanatics. We are doing an instant reaction to the match that aired that day. So come over for that. Tuesday nights, we do the tagline, which is where me and my brother will sit there and talk about movie news and weigh in, give our opinions, hopefully make you laugh, make you see some things you didn't know about movies. Hopefully that's what we're trying to do. So that's Tuesday night, 9 p.m. Central Time. And then we do our Schmodown replay after that. We are also doing the reactions to the pay-per-view events that will come out whenever I'm able to edit them and get them out. We just had one right before this. We just had one drop for the Smets versus Chandru match with our special guest, Chance Ellison. So, yeah. And as Garth was saying, you can join our Patreons, patreon.com/Cinefanatics. We do have a movie watch along coming up pretty soon, which we are trying to figure out. Our movie watch alongs have been fantastic so far. I am loving these watch alongs because it's basically our director's cut, our commentary of our commentary of these movies, and it's been so much fun to have a nice little deep dive into these and make jokes and have a lot of fun with it. So I highly recommend anyone joining our Patreon, join that $10 tier and watch these movie watch alongs with us because it's so much fun. Anyways, and then you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Robert Adams MLP, and that's it.
And Craig, we can people find you online.
So people can find me online competing in the Schmodown underneath the name The Barbarian, along with my sidekick Elvis. Our first match in the singles tournament is going to air on Thursday, September 2nd. So look out for that. It'll be myself versus Whitney the Beauty Seibold. And then in terms of other appearances, I'm going to be on, I believe it's going to be this Thursday on the Video Chronic quiz. We're going to be doing From Dusk Till Dawn. I'm very excited. It's been something that we've been talking about doing for months and months and months. And
I want in on that one. I love From Dusk Till Dawn.
Well, let Drew know. I know that I believe Ben the Bandit's going to be on too. So make sure you get your request in fast. And then interest in terms of social media, I'm on Twitter at Barbarian Craig. I'm on Twitch at twitch.tv/Mogwai417, Mogwai like in Gremlins, MOGWAI. And then I'm going to be I'm on Instagram with CF Gagne, C as in Craig, F as in Frank, Gagne as in the French word to win, GAYNIER. And that's it. That's where I am.
Can I go ahead and say that your match that you have coming up, we would like to get you on the replay as well. If you would like to react to your match,
possibly. Let me. So
I'll reach out to you later.
It's a Thursday. Yeah. We'll figure out. Sorry,
Ryan, where can people find you online?
Well, people can definitely follow me on social media. Follow me on Twitter, the username caramel_pain. You can go follow me on Instagram with the username Rai again. And also I'm a part of and regarding other platforms, people can go onto YouTube and go to TMG Entertainment to look and follow them just for Suplex City Chats. It's we do this every Thursday. It's pretty much a wrestling platform show where we talk about wrestling news and we review wrestling shows from the past week from different wrestling companies like WWE, AEW. We try to talk a bit about New Japan, Impact Wrestling, Ring of Honor, any wrestling news that we can, and then we just do. It's pretty much a free-form platform where we just, we try to be. We'll sometimes dress in character. Sometimes we'll just give our own good opinions on certain wrestlers and anything that's happening in the wrestling world. And people can also check me out on the Video Drew Nerd Chronic quiz. I will pop up occasionally whenever they have a quiz that I'm interested in. I don't think there's one coming up recently that I'm featured on, but I might just have like a random pop up, like a freaking Pokemon. You just like a wild Pikachu all of a sudden shows up. You'll just see a wild Ryan appear on a Nerd Chronic quiz.
Ooh, you're gonna bring up you're gonna hate it if you see my brother on one of those talking about Pokemon.
I'm only from I went all the way to the Johto League, and then I started losing my interest in Pokemon the more. So
I have no idea what you're talking about. You need to get my brother.
Oh, he'll die.
Jigglypuff.
Why are you talking about Kalinowski?
Oh snap! Too soon.
I don't know. Basically, anytime Robert's on a video chronic quiz, Chris Adams pops up behind him. Oh,
I know. That's my favorite part of Robert competing.
But you can also find me popping up every now and then on the video chronic quizzes. I'm also on Take 3. I host Late Night Take 3. I haven't decided on a topic yet or if it'll be on Sunday, because with the throwdowns on Fridays, which we normally do, I don't really want to compete with a Shimoda because it'll be inevitable that we lose anyway. So, but for next week on Rankum is going to be top 12 video game movies. Everyone won the poll. I know something.
Oh my
Yeah,
god.
I've seen that argument's been thrown. Like, okay, can he do top 12? Like, we'll find out.
Yeah, they talk about video game movies, aka 12 video game movies.
Yeah.
How many of those are going to be directed by Uwe Boll?
Oh my god. If I'm on that panel, I'd make sure no
personally,
Uwe Boll
hopefully,
movie is nominated.
Paulson is actually not that bad. Anyways.
Yeah, I mean, I've forgiven Uwe Boll for what he did to Aragon, but that being said, you could also find me over on Full Metal Trivia, where I host Full Metal Classic, which is our sort of gateway into the singles league and all that. And you can also
And just like that, he froze.
I blame New Zealand.
I don't know if anyone actually heard any of that because I think I froze.
Yeah, you did.
But I don't know where I froze. I'm going to end the broadcast.
You were
before,
talking about the Full Metal